Hey y'all, it's Jandel Crutchfield, the public education trustee, and you know what time it is. It's time to stand up for our public schools. So, we're talking a little bit more about how public schools are able to perform the miracle of public education through funding, right? So we've talked about federal funding, talked about state funding, talked about local funding. And so we want to drill down a little bit more into a part of the local funding that is determined by property tax values, but where do those values come from? And so we want to talk about appraisal districts, right? This is probably more than you ever want to know, but just a short clip here. Bear with me. Appraisal districts are those districts, they're local government in Texas, and they're actually responsible for estimating the value of all real estate in a given county. And so they're assessing property taxes on each piece of property in your local county. And so there's one per county. There's a board of directors. So they have their own board of directors. And so they work in conjunction with like your school district to be able to assess property taxes in that district. And so they have a chief appraiser, they have staff, they have a budget, they handle all kinds of applications and oversee like day-to-day operations for their appraisal districts. So they are the ones determining the value of all the taxable property within the county boundaries. And so remember, property taxes, biggest source of funding for many, many school districts. And so there's a division in Texas in particular called the State Comptroller's Office. And so they conduct a property value study for each school district for determining how much the state is going to give. So it's that piece of, well, here's the property taxes locally, and that's going to impact what state funding you get. So there's a study done that estimates and ensures the values within your school district are either at or near the market value. And so that's so schools that have more or less are kind of getting a fair share of that funding. So the state sends more money to the districts that are less able to raise money locally through those property taxes. So all of that has to be studied, right? You have to figure that out. And so the comptroller values don't necessarily directly impact your local values. That appraisal district does, right? And so when local values through that appraisal, your local appraisal district are more than 5% below state values, the school district could receive fewer state dollars, right? So those things have to kind of work in conjunction. And so those appraisal districts really do impact potential funding from the state, which we already know, even especially in Texas, that basic allotment is still low already. So it really shouldn't go lower. So appraisal districts are county level entities. They assess property values. And that assessment of property values needs to match that state comptroller study by a certain percentage. So your district doesn't lose funding from the state. So keep that in mind. We'll be talking about the local appraisal districts that are around Tarrant County in the next video. Y'all take care.